Today I want to talk about South Africa's roads, right? Every road in South Africa actually has an owner, and the letters N, M, and R quietly tell you who that owner is. So N would be national, R would be provincial, M would be the municipality or the metro. 3 different governments, 3 different budgets, but here's a very interesting map. Look at these roads, the roads with no letters or owners, because here's the thing nobody has actually told you about South Africa's roads, right? There are roads that our governments at all levels believe do not exist. And here's why you should care beyond the trivia of it all. For example, if you hit a pothole and it chows your tire, that letter tells you exactly who you need to sue. If you're driving on the N1 and you hit a crater or there's a cow on the road and it smashes your car, you know you can get SANRAL on the phone. Different letter meaning different office, different queue you're gonna wait in basically. And that's the real secret of this map. The letter isn't just a name, it's an answer to a question of whose fault is it that this road sucks. There's a word in South African road law that kind of helps a lot with this. The word is proclaimed. Road that a government entity has decided to take responsibility for, budget for, put it in their books, and have taken legal ownership of this specific road. They've basically agreed custody and maintenance of this road. An unproclaimed road is one that was never claimed. It's used, people drive on it, people walk on it, kids go to school on these roads, but on paper, they actually don't belong to anyone. Africa has almost 140,000 kilometers of unproclaimed road. And here's the trap. No official government has tried to even claim it because no official authority can spend money on maintaining these roads. So what happens is that they typically rot and become a threat and a problem and an issue to societies that use them a lot. And not because the budgets don't exist to fix these roads, but because on paper, these roads don't exist. I mean, I want you to think about that. A road can be very real enough that you use this to drive your child to school, but invisible enough so that the government doesn't have to pay to fix it and maintain it. And I want you to take a closer look at this map. Look at where these gray roads actually are. They also happen to be in a lot of places where the country spent centuries neglecting. It's not a coincidence. These orphan roads are not a paperwork era. These are places that have been abandoned before and they're being abandoned again. Once in history, now by the filing and administrative system. So how does the state actually decide which roads matter? This is where things get a little bit strange. For decades, South Africa has had a system within which it prioritizes its roads based on how much money are they making, how much weight is rolling over it. I mean, there's a bit of a whole hidden science behind this, right? And civil engineers and traffic engineers will maybe get excited for this. Engineers count axles. A road gets ranked by something called an E80, a standard heavy axle load. The more freight, the higher the class, and the more attention this road earns. It's not stupid. Freight is the economy, right? i.e. how much money is rolling over these roads. The N3 between Johannesburg and Durban carries the country's trade, and of course it needs to be protected. But I want you guys to also notice what this logic does not see. A gravel road in the middle of Mpumalanga doesn't carry any trucks, but it has a lot of children that use it to get to school every day. Some in the villages, some in perhaps the townships or in the cities. By the same logic that the engineers use to prioritize the roads, this would literally rank low at the bottom, right? So we've built a classification system that's brilliant at identifying the roads that our economy needs, but one that is basically blind to identifying the roads that our people need. I'll let that sink in for a minute. This is the real fault in all of this, honestly. There's 2 different ways in being able to define what an important road is here. And they produce basically 2 different countries. On the one hand, an economic map. Important roads are the ones that carry all the freights, drive our economy, so your trade corridors, your ports, your freight corridors, the dense city streets where our GDP is being concocted and cooked, right? Because the Constitution does promise access to social infrastructure. Right, schools, clinics. And on this map, the only important road is the road that helps households get access to these social amenities or social infrastructure, right? The road a child must use to get to school, even if it doesn't carry any freight at all. And here's the uncomfortable mirror image. The same logic says that basically some roads make negative contributions. They basically cost more than the value that they carry. And in this scenario where we have these 2 maps, the blunt advice would be, cut them out. Cut the ones that don't bring value. Unclaim them, and then free that money for the roads that the people need. Now, in the same breath, this forces a question that's very uncomfortable. And which roads is the country allowed to give up on? Which roads are we actually cutting? Also, who's actually meant to fix these roads? Well, at the top sits SANRAL. By most measures, it's doing a really good job. National roads are high quality in this country, often graded fit for the future. But the moment you step off the national road network, the quality kind of falls off. Provincial and municipal roads is usually where things get a bit dodgy. And the gravel roads are basically rated as unfit. So why does this gap exist between the SANRALs and the gravel road in the local municipality, right? Well, it has a lot to do with money, of course, because these typically have a maintenance backlog that runs in the hundreds of billions. But partially something a lot sneakier than that, the maintenance budgets actually reward roads that don't ask a lot from the municipality. So if your road is in good standing and it's generally not riddled with potholes, it gets assigned more money because a good road is cheap to keep it good. Stay with me now. And a wrecked road is brutally expensive to maintain. Do you see that? So the system is basically spending on the winners and lets the losers fall further. The good road gets a smooth patch and your road gets put in a backlog, in a queue. That's why when you report a pothole locally, you just get a reference number, and because the road has to be seen first before it gets fixed. It's basically the same disease we were speaking about with the grey roads. It's just a lot smaller in a smaller scale level. So interestingly enough, a classification system, right? N, M, R, seems quite neutral. Numbers, letters, axles, engineering, but a classification system is mostly about what counts, what matters, who matters. You rank the roads by freight and economic input, while the villages are the ones that suffer in this instance. A road unproclaimed, and you're declaring that a community out there's road is not really for the government to deal with. You've foisted the problem. There's even a perverse incentive here if you deep it. An orphaned road is a liability. Remember, if you claim it, you own its bill forever. So everyone has a quiet reason why it's okay to kind of leave it gray. The longer no one admits the road exists, the longer no one has to pay for it. Of who owns the roads is actually a map of who is held responsible. So tomorrow when you pass one of these road signs and you see the M and the N, the unmarked roads, the ones that are gray, that's just the government telling you that they are deadbeats. I mean, we've spent hundreds of years grading roads by the trucks that basically cross them. The harder question is whether are we brave enough to actually rank them by the people? A map was never just a map of the roads. It's a matter of who matters in this country. Do you really think that this is an elaborate system to avoid accountability of fixing our roads, or is there something a lot deeper or not deeper? So let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think there's a lot deeper incentive to abandon these roads? Let me know in the comments and I'll check you guys on the next one.